Let's face it, sometimes we knit a sweater and the neckline just turns out too loose. The collar is just too loose. We don't like how it fits. We're going for a tighter look and we don't know what to do because we really don't feel like re-knitting the collar. And this is a top-down sweater, so it would be a lot more difficult to re-knit this collar. It's not like I can just rip it back and pick up the stitches and re-knit it. So today I'm gonna show you 2 ways to tighten a collar without re-knitting it. So stay tuned, you're gonna love these tricks. You're gonna use them on all of your sweaters if you need to. Just to be clear, I'm using this sweater as an example. This sweater that I designed, my Fall Bluff sweater, you can click the link in the video description to get your free pattern and tutorial, is designed to sit like this on you. So I'm just using this as an example just to show you how to tighten it up. I am happy with the way this fits me, so just keep that in mind. But if you do want to see how to tighten necklines, be sure to watch. The first method I'm going to show you on how to tighten a neckline and give it a little bit more structure is using elastic. And this is elastic I've got for beading. And there's a bunch of different kinds. Try to choose something that's clear but has a lot of strength to it. This is called Stretch Magic. I've had this for years. I will link some elastic for you in the video description, but it's pretty strong. If you could always double up if you wanted to, but just cut a piece of elastic that's long enough to fit around the collar. And then you're gonna take your tapestry needle and you are going to weave the elastic through the tapestry needle. I know it's a little hard to see because the elastic's clear. And I'm gonna start on the inside of the middle of the back of the collar. And I've got a 1x1 rib here, so this is pretty easy to weave through. I'm gonna just weave through the V's, and they're upside down because this was knit from the top down. But I'm gonna just take my tapestry needle and weave through the V's here at the bottom. I'm gonna get as close to the neckline as I possibly can. You can do this at the base of the neckline. You can also do this at the top of the neckline. You could do one or the other or both. The same concept applies. Sometimes people just want to tighten the top of the neckline to give it a little bit more structure. I usually like to just tighten the base of the neckline. That's me. So I'm going through the V's all of the way around the neckline, being sure to leave a substantial enough tail, if you can see it, so that I can just tie the work together at the end. So I am just going through the V's. You can weave through the stitches however you would like. It works well with 1x1 rib to go this way. So I'm going to continue going all the way around. Okay, I've worked all the way around. I have one more stitch to go through. I know it's hard to see, but I'm going through. Here's where I started. Here's where I'm finishing. I'm going to drop the needle, and you can see I've got the elastic here, and all I'm simply going to do is make sure I have it to how taut I want it to be. You know, don't make it too taut. You don't want it to, you know, rip open when you put it over your head, but just be, you know, smart about how tight you're going to knot it, and then simply knot it like 2 or 3 times. And then if you wanted to do the same thing at the top, you would start at the same place, and I would just go through the top V's as close to the edge as possible, all the way around, and get it to the tension you would like, knot it, and clip it. The next way to tighten a neckline is to take the yarn that you use to work the sweater in, take a crochet hook. I am using one size down crochet hook size than what I knit the sweater in. And I like this method mostly to use at the top to give the top of the collar a little bit more structure. I'm also going to show you how to do it at the base of the collar on the inside of the work. But first, this just is a nice way to finish off. If you don't like how you cast it on or bound off and it just didn't look real nice and you don't want to go back and undo stuff, you can literally take a crochet hook, go through the top V here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. You go through the top V and you just start working a slip stitch all the way around each stitch. So I'm just going to pull up my first stitch, go in the next one, yarn over, pull through. And this can be a little tricky because you want to make sure you get your tension correct. But this can help to add a little bit more structure to the top of the collar. You don't want it to be too tight or else you won't be able to get it over your head. So just be careful that you're making it loose enough. But it does give a little bit more structure to the top. So I'm continuing to work all the way around. This is where I started. And as you can see, it does give a tad bit of a different look at the top. Just be aware of that. This is also a fun method to use if you wanted to add a contrasting color just to the edge of your cuffs or your collar. It's just another fun way to add some details, but you can also use this method using the same color yarn and slip stitch. This is the slip stitch crochet to get a more finished or more structured top of the collar. Again, just be careful to not go too tight with your tension so you can still get the sweater over your head. I've done this more when I have done a sweater bottom up and I've bound off. Sometimes when I bind off too loosely. When I cast on with long tail, it's usually okay. But this is just another way to add more structure. So I'm working all the way around. I'm almost to the end here. This is where I've started. And when you get to the end here, you go through the last stitch and you just connect it to the very first stitch you made. Slip it through, cut the yarn, pull it through, and then you can just weave this tail in on the inside of the work. So here's what it looks like now with this method and the structure at the top of the collar. Again, it gives it a little bit of a different look at the top, so just beware. But it is another way to add some structure to your collar. And if you don't like it, it's pretty easy to just rip out. Crocheting is easy to rip back. So now I'm going to show you a different way to use your crochet hook to add some structure at the base. Again, most important thing is to watch your tension. This is pretty drastic. So only do this if you really need to tighten up your collar. You could go through the stitches a little differently. I think it looks best when you go through the knit stitches on the wrong side inside the collar. So I'll show you what I mean. So you're going to start by inserting your hook through one of the V's. And so I'm only going through the knit stitches at the base of the collar. I have to do this really, really loosely or else it will just tighten up way too much. But this is pretty drastic if you need to drastically tighten the base of the collar. I'm going through pretty loosely here. And I'll show you in a second how much it tightens up. But this is just another method. You could go through the stitches differently, but you can see now how it really starts to tighten up. And again, you just need to make sure you can get it over your head when you do it this way. So you're going to continue all the way through, just as I showed you on the top. and finish it off the same way. Okay, I've crocheted all the way around here using that slip stitch in the base line, in the base of that knit stitch on the wrong side, and I'm going pretty loosely. I could have gone up a hook size or two. And as I've gone around, I've just kind of stopped to make sure I can still get the sweater over my head. So I just went through the last stitch. I'm going to go through the first one again, the chain here to connect it, pull through, cut the yarn, and now pull this through, and I can kind of tie this together and weave these ends through now. And I just want to show you what it looks like and how this is kind of a little bit more drastic. That's pretty tight compared to what I did before, but I can definitely still get it over my head. So that's another method. And you also have to make sure, you know, when you're doing a 1x1 rib, this is pretty easy to do because you won't see, it won't damage what the work looks like on the outside when you work through the knit stitches on the inside at the base of the collar here. So just be aware of that. You need to make sure you're weaving through in a way that doesn't alter the outside of the work. But that is the second way that I like to tighten a neckline without having to re-knit the collar. So now that same sweater looks like this with a tightened collar. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't be discouraged if you finish the sweater and aren't loving the neckline and think it's too loose. Now you know how to fix it. See you guys in the next video.